Have you been to Panda Express recently?
Yes, about 2 weeks ago.
Have you felt like their quality has really gone downhill?
I don't know if I would say that it's gone like significantly downhill, but it has perhaps been a little bit worse than it was once upon a time.
Okay. All right. I was wondering if it was just me or if that's, just the way it is now.
I think for Panda Express, there's like a high variability based on how fresh whatever it is that you're getting from them is. Like if you have the freshest chow mein, like brand new out the door, and you don't get the like bunch of stuff from the old pan that they dump on top of the new one, like if you get the actual new fresh noodles, it's quite good. Similarly with like the orange chicken, if you get it like fresh, it's way better than if it's been sitting out for an hour or two.
I think I got fresh orange chicken. I don't think I got fresh chow mein. So maybe that was the issue. But even I find that the orange chicken nowadays is like soggy and not like, I remember it being very like crispy, like, and I don't know. I don't know if they're not cooking it long enough or it's not hot enough or the batches. I don't know. It feels like every time I go there, I'm disappointed nowadays. And I used to love it.
I don't think it's fallen from grace quite that far, at least in my area. So maybe your Panda Express is just bad. Welcome back to Pride and Accomplishment. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jason. This is episode 103. We have probably the most amount of notes we've ever had ever in a P&A show notes document. Is this 4 pages? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4 pages. And we would have had more, but we just kind of stopped. It just keeps getting longer every time I look at something that I need to add more and more notes to. So we've decided that we're just going to stop. We're going to push the record button and we're going to start recording. Otherwise, this episode might turn into, 4 hours long.
Yeah, I would say we're going to try to keep it within, under 2 hours for sure, and probably under an hour and a half if we can. And we may have to split some of the announcements and things across 2 episodes. We'll see.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Normally, I think right now we'd be talking about, some of the stuff Apple announced and all of that. Maybe we'll chit chat about it in the post show. But just so much has happened in the gaming sphere, right? It is not E3 weekend, essentially, that we're recording right now, where E3 should have been, and all the announcements essentially would have been coming out at E3. But E3 is not a thing anymore. So we have had, that Chris and I have watched, we have had the PC Gaming Showcase, the Summer Games Fest, the Xbox Game Showcase, which included the Starfield Direct. And last time on the show, we talked about the PlayStation Showcase or whatever what that one is called. So there has just been announcement after announcement after announcement of gaming news.
Yeah, we've gotten all of these major announcements, and there's a few like game specific ones that haven't even happened yet as we're recording. Due to some real life scheduling things, we're recording this episode a little bit early. So if some amazing thing happens between now and when this episode publishes, and we missed it, we'll pick it up next time.
I think the major one that I know about that I am gonna watch, it's actually blocked on my work calendar tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
We're recording this on Sunday. Tomorrow, Monday, is the Ubisoft Forward, which is their kind of direct showcase. I'm expecting some news about Assassin's Creed Mirage and maybe finally a release date for Skull and Bones, or is it already released? Who knows? No one knows. So I'll be watching it, but we won't be talking about it here because we haven't seen it yet.
One major showcase of note that is not happening this month at all is Nintendo. They have not announced anything, and the rumor people say that there is not a Nintendo Direct scheduled for this kind of season. So we'll have to wait till later in the summer, hopefully, when something might come. Who knows?
New Switch hardware?
No, not allowed. I just got this Switch OLED, and it's great. I can't do another Switch this year.
We wanted to start with the thing that we actually saw most recently. We are just coming hot off. It's actually probably still happening as we record because we were watching the PC Games Showcase put on by the PC Gamer site and magazine.
Yes, we watched an hour and a half of the PC Games Showcase. And I think, at about 40 minutes in, I asked Jason, I said, so how long is this thing? And Jason goes, it's like an hour. And we turned it off at an hour and a half, and it was still going strong.
Still going. And it's just, they do this thing where every year they have this theme or this like gimmick or whatever that like is always cringy. I don't remember what last year's was, but this year they were, bringing AI into it and jokes, and they had an AI co-host, and it didn't gel with me. They had a couple good zingers in there. I can't really remember what they were, but a couple good jokes like every 40 minutes. And it just, the games there were, I mean, they do a lot of indie games, right? They're doing a lot of like things that don't get attention anywhere else. There's a lot of like, hey, wish list this on Steam, to help kind of these games coming out, and they're really not part of a larger platform. So I appreciate that, but everything we were kind of seeing, I really wasn't I actually didn't write down a single game that I wanted to kind of talk through and talk about from the PC Game Showcase for the hour and a half we were watching.
There was, I think, two that I would say I would really want to talk about from the PC Game Showcase. One of them was Islands of Insight, which is like a fantasy puzzle game, and the other was Invector Rhythm Galaxy, which looks like a rhythm game that I don't know what the gimmick is as far as like what buttons you push or whatever, but it was boasting like real songs from actual artists. So that's an interesting, anytime there's a licensed music game, I'm kind of, my ears perk up a little bit, because so many rhythm games are based on either generic music or kind of music you've never heard of, or like computer generated music or something. And I do like a good licensed music game.
My favorite part of that showcase was the part where they showed the Xbox Game Pass commercial, because as we will talk about in the Xbox Games Showcase portion, they know how to put on a showcase, and that entire showcase was summed up very well in a 30-second commercial during the PC Games Showcase. They were specifically showing off the Xbox the PC Game Pass portion of that Game Pass and all the games you can get and all, but they know how to make a trailer, and they certainly know how to make a showcase. So that was my favorite 30 seconds of it.
So the moral of the story for next year is we don't need to watch the whole thing, right?
I feel like I said this last year, and I was like, I got to remind myself not to watch this next year, because it's just not, I just need to watch a recap, right? Not waste 2.5 hours watching it. And I feel like I'm going to say it now, but I need to remind myself next year not to watch it, because I know, like, the feeling I'm having right now is like I never want to watch the showcase ever again, and I just want to watch the recap of someone else. Like, give me the 20-minute boiled down version of the 2-hour showcase. I'm not going to remember, and I'm going to say, oh, PC games, let's watch it because it's PC games, and I'm going to forget. But like, if anyone, as we're coming up to next year's PC Games Showcase, please reference me back to episode 103 and be like, you don't want to watch it.
Calling it now. All right. Should we jump into the worthwhile showcases?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first one was Summer Games Fest, which happened sometime in the middle of the week. I did not sit down and watch the whole thing. I kind of caught up with some recap site pages and trailers and stuff like that. So I do confess that I did not sit and watch the whole thing, but I believe you did, based on all of the messages that were flying by in one of our shared Discords.
I did watch the whole thing. I would say it was a pretty good kind of overview. It was a decent showcase. I would say it's very well produced, right? It's Jeff Keighley and this just entire kind of, they're in like, it's very E3 style, right? They're in a hall with a stage, and, they've got all the screens and the lights, and it's very well produced. It's a lot of fun. But overall, I would say I was whelmed, not underwhelmed, not overwhelmed, just whelmed. And we'll talk about some of the things. The thing I want to kind of establish here is every game that you see on the notes here is not every game they showed, because I was only writing down things that I kind of noted during the Summer Games Fest. And then even from that, so that this episode is not 10 hours long, Chris and I are only going to talk about the games that we really want to talk about. We may sprinkle in like a note here or there about some other ones. But if we talked about every game that happened during the Summer Games Fest, or when we get to it, the Xbox Game Showcase, we'll just run out of time. So just note that everything we're talking about is not everything that was announced. We are really kind of cherry picking what we want to talk about.
You've got something in the notes here that says Nick Cage, weird. I have no idea what this is in reference to, because again, I didn't really sit there and watch the whole thing, but what is going on with Nicolas Cage and games?
Okay, fine. Nicolas Cage was there in person, live on stage with Jeff Keighley. And he was announced to be part of the, is it Dead by Daylight? One of those horror games. I cannot remember right now.
Your mental block for horror games has kicked in?
Yeah, it's Dead by Daylight, Nicolas Cage. There's like, I don't know if it's a free add-on or whatever. It was just a very strange experience where they announced that Nicolas Cage is going to be a survivor in Dead by Daylight and like a playable character. And he came out on stage and I can't tell if he was being genuine or if he was being weird. And I just felt very uncomfortable about the whole thing. I'm not a huge Nicolas Cage fan. Like, I'm a decent, like, I understand like the movies he's been in and whatnot, but he likes to do a lot of horror stuff. And like, he even said it on stage, like he likes Dead by Daylight because it's kind of horror game. And I didn't jive with any of it. And it just felt very weird, but the audience was really into it. So I was like, am I the odd one out here? And then they showed him in game and it just looks like a terrible model, in my opinion. I don't think it's a good rendition of Nicolas Cage in this game. Maybe that's all the game is kind of capable of, but just the whole experience of like Nicolas Cage being on stage and like announcing it and like going through his lines. And I didn't care for it.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I don't really care for most, if not all, real actor portrayals in video games. So Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk, like Nicolas Cage in whatever this is, the guy from Breaking Bad in Far Cry. It's just uncanny to me when they take real actors who I've seen in like TV and movies and stuff, and I know what they're supposed to look like, and then they put them in a game. It really breaks down the kind of illusion for me if I know that like this is a person and they're supposed to look like a person. Somehow I have like a I don't know, suspension of disbelief filter for game characters when they start as game characters. But if they start as real people, then the uncanny valley is real.
I don't mind so much if their likeness is playing a character in the game. I'm thinking of, Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077 is a good example. He's not Keanu Reeves in the game. He's Johnny or something, right?
Sure.
He has a character that he's playing, and that's how actors work. They play characters in game, in pieces of art. But the thing with Nicolas Cage is he's not playing a character. He's playing in his own, in the word. I have to look up exactly what he said. He essentially said he's playing a, like a souped up version of the actor Nicolas Cage in the game. Like, he's not playing a character. He's playing Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage in the Nicolas Cage expansion of Dead by Daylight. Like, that's where I draw the line.
If you take a step back, I mean, Nicolas Cage kind of only ever plays Nicolas Cage in anything that he does. So like, that's just him.
Sure. But the name of the character in the game is Nicolas Cage.
Oh, I see. Okay. Ugh. All right. Not a fan. I mean, I wasn't a fan anyway, but now I'm really not a fan.
It's not like he's playing like, Joe Smith, the survivor in Dead by Daylight. He's playing Nicolas Cage. Like, when you go to the character select, it's going to say character select Nicolas Cage.
Okay. Nope. Don't like it. Nope.
Okay.
No.
All right. We're on the same page now.
Okay. Well, let's move on before that just weirds me out any further. The next thing on my list is, predictably, but still very excited, Sonic Superstars, the Super Mario 3D World of Sonic, by the looks of it. Like, co-op Sonic, classic 2D side-scrolling Sonic. Looks great. You can play as like all the characters. I think that's why it's called Superstars. Looks kind of like a return to form for Sonic, which they've done a couple of these. When they did Sonic Generations and did the 2D side-scrolling levels, they were great. So I have very high hopes for this game. It's coming out in the fall, so I don't think we have an actual date yet, but I am very much looking forward to it.
I think you may convince me to buy this with you and try it with you.
Oh.
I have never been a Sonic fan. It's just never been a franchise that I am interested in, but looking at this trailer, watching it, hearing you talk about Sonic, this being it's not a remake, right? It's not a return to anything. This is truly a new game for Sonic. I feel like I won't be behind, right? There will be things there'll be things I don't understand, maybe some secrets that are callbacks, but like nothing I feel about. I won't feel like, I know this level and blah. I feel like if there's a time to get into Sonic, it may be now with a kind of a co-op situation with a brand new game. This may be the time. So I actually really liked the trailer. I thought it was really cool. I knew you would like it more than I would, but I think if you kind of went into this and said, I'm really going to play this. I'm going to try to play it all the way through. I'd like you to play with me. That you might get me.
Well, and I think you might not even have to buy it because I think it might be local co-op only. So you might have to use the Steam Remote Play Together thing or something to actually play it co-op, but across the world.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I guess I just assumed it was online co-op, but maybe you're right.
I'm pretty sure it's couch co-op.
Okay, well maybe I'll just have to be there. That would work too.
Or just come on down. Yes, up to 3 other players with drop in, drop out, 4-player local co-op.
Okay, all right.
But it looks very good. And I'm very excited.
Did you know about this game, or is this kind of a surprise to you?
This was brand new for me.
Okay.
I actually would wonder if I would want to get this on Steam to play on the Steam Deck or like Switch. I don't know.
Oh, do you think it'll come out on PlayStation?
It is. PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and Steam, and Epic.
Okay. I will remind you that if you get it on Steam, that means you can play it on a TV, on a Switch-like device, and on your PC.
Fair. I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
The next game from the Summer Games Fest is one that I have talked about on the show before. They showed more. I think it was new, but they showed more kind of gameplay, maybe, who knows, at least, pieces and bits and whatnot of Throne and Liberty, which is the MMO coming out from NCSoft, published by Amazon Games. We still don't have a date for this. I don't know if we had it confirmed last time, but it's definitely a free-to-play game. They've kind of dropped some more buzzwords about it, right? The buzzword that kind of I'm drawn to is massive scale PvE VP. So this is what I wrote down. I have high hopes and low expectations for this game. It could be so good and it could be so bad.
I really like that phrase. I think I'm gonna use that for most anything these days, like game wise. High hopes and low expectations is kind of the buzzword for any like unproven game formula at this point, and then things have to surprise you.
Yeah. It's free to play, so the barrier and entry here is really low. But I'm expecting, because it's free to play, because it's PvE VP, I'm expecting like a mix between New World and Lost Ark kind of thing. I don't really know how it's going to work, but like the progression system of Lost Ark, which I really wasn't into. I know a lot of people kind of gelled with it a lot more than I did. Some people gelled with it a lot less than I did, but I didn't really care for it. But I'm expecting something like that. But I'm also expecting, because it's kind of that PvE VP action combat oriented kind of game, I'm expecting something like New World in terms of combat and controlling cities and it's all about getting the throne, right? Throne and Liberty. So I don't know. I'm really hesitant on where like the gameplay systems are gonna like lead this game. I really like the action-oriented combat of Guild Wars 2, right? I think it's an MMO that has in my opinion, really good style of combat because it's, a lot of hitboxing. It's not it's tab targetable, but it's not tab targeting, right? You're positioning, you're dodging, you're rolling, you're moving. Very few things require you to stand still. If you swing your greatsword and the person that is invisible is in front of you, you're still going to hit them because the hitbox is a hitbox, and even though you're not targeting them, it hits them, right? I'm into that kind of thing from an MMO perspective. I really didn't like the style of combat in New World. I have a feeling that this game is going to lean more towards the New World style than the Guild Wars 2 style. So that's why I have low expectations for it. But who knows? Maybe. I mean, it's NCSoft, right? NCSoft also owns ArenaNet, which makes Guild Wars 2, which is why I'm kind of making that comparison. But Amazon Games was the publisher for New World. So like it all, like, where do we go with all of, like, I don't know. That's why I have high hopes, but low expectations.
I have, I think, not much interest in this one. Since it's free to play, will probably give it a shot, but I tend to dislike free to play MMOs a lot. The saving grace here might be that it's NCSoft and they're the Guild Wars people, sort of, but not really. And so they might have picked something up and learned something about free to play MMOs from Guild Wars, which I'm hoping, but I really don't have a lot of, I don't have high hopes or expectations for this one.
I've signed up for the technical test, which they announced during the Summer Games Fest, which I assume is like a closed beta or something like that. We'll see. I think I'll make my determination on whether it's a game I like if I get into some kind of beta like that. And if I don't, I probably won't touch it again. Chris, have you played any of the Kingdom games?
Kingdom, yes. Kingdom 2 Crowns, Kingdom the first one, yes.
We played that together, didn't we?
We did.
We did. We absolutely did. Well, they announced... have you ever played the Yes, Your Grace Kingdom game?
No. Is it the same universe?
I think so. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the same art style. It's the same whole thing. I'm pretty sure it's in the same universe. But there was Yes, Your Grace, which was less of a real-time strategy thing and more of what I gather like a planning strategy kind of diplomacy game.
Kingdom management RPG.
There you go. Wow. People are better with words than I am.
Essentially just a king simulator, right?
Yeah. So that's okay. So I never really I never played Yes, Your Grace, and I never really kind of was drawn to it from the trailers. But during the Summer Games Fest, they showed a trailer for Yes, Your Grace Snowfall, which I don't know if it's an expansion or an entirely new game. Doesn't matter. I saw this trailer and I'm just like, oh, I'm starting to pick up what this game is. Like, I'm starting to understand. And I'm starting to understand, like what you said, like what a kingdom management simulator is. Like it really started to connect with me, and I am very interested. I may go get Yes, Your Grace. I may already have it. I meant it was on Humble or something. But Yes, Your Grace Snowfall is obviously an expansion, whether that's a new game or an actual expansion. And I think I might sit down with this one for a while.
Yes, Your Grace was in July 2022, Humble Choice.
I'm opening my Steam library now to see if I have it already.
I know that I do.
The thing that really caught me for this was like you always read about kings and the history of that is like everyone gets to come and petition and give their kind of their what's going on in their life and why they need help or why they need to not pay taxes or like all these petitions, right? Petitioning the king, going to court. They showed that it's a series of decisions that you have to make, right? Like on yes or no, or I'll send troops to you, or I won't, or we'll protect that part of it, and it all kind of leads to consequences. And I'm sure there's maybe multiple endings. It reminds me a lot of a kingdom simulator in the same way that the decisions you make affect the outcomes in the story of Papers, Please. That's kind of what I was thinking in my head. I don't know if that's actually how it is, but that's what I want it to be, where based on the decisions you make, based on the things that you do and don't approve as king, certain things happen. And that, I don't know. I was really drawn to that.
Yeah. This one, the choice-based gameplay, I don't know if I really care or like it, but now that we're talking about it, I'm going to go back and play Yes, Your Grace and probably try it. It seems like a perfect Steam Deck game, really. So I'm going to give that a shot and see if I like it. And then that will kind of dictate whether Yes, Your Grace Snowfall kind of gets onto the list or not.
Real-time update. I also have Yesterday Grace, so I will be doing that too. Okay, I wrote this next one down because I was watching and I was like, okay, I probably won't play this, but I'm not sure if Chris is going to play this. But they announced another Star Trek game, which, first of all, I was very surprised that there was yet another Star Trek game kind of in the pipeline. Because Star Trek Resurgence just came out recently. That whole like RPG, very Mass Effect kind of like choice and combat and go through a story. But during the Summer Games Fest, they announced Star Trek Infinite, which is a strategy game. I think real-time strategy, potentially 4X. Not entirely sure where it lands in the strategy kind of.
If I had to guess, I would say that it's 4X because it's by Paradox, who are the people that make a lot of other kind of 4X games.
Is this? I mean, does this fall within your realm of interest?
It does. Yes, I'm not sure, and I'm sure someone will correct me, but I'm not sure that there's been a good Star Trek strategy game, or even any Star Trek strategy game that wasn't like Bridge Commander, or like trying to put you into kind of an RPG, like a day in the life kind of simulator. I don't know that there's been like a battle or like strategy game in the Star Trek universe that I can think of. I mean, I'm sure there was one in the 90s or something, and I just wasn't paying attention at the time. But it does seem like something that has the right theme. If it is an RTS, that makes me even more interested because I like RTSs better than 4X games. But I will definitely take a look at this one. I'm hoping that maybe there'll be like a demo or something. That would be great.
Not entirely sure. They didn't announce a whole lot. It was a bit of a, I don't think it was a teaser, but it was a bit of a trailer that didn't show much. But they did say, and they've announced it a couple times now, they keep saying more news coming July 16th, which apparently is Picard Day. Very obviously not a Star Trek fan. I mean, I like some of the Star Trek stuff, but why is that Picard Day?
I think it's his birthday.
Oh, okay. That would make sense.
It's either that or it's the day from TNG where they did the We Love Captain Picard or whatever day. I don't know. We have Star Trek friends that will correct this.
I'm sure. Anyway, more news about this game, July 16th.
The next game that we have on our list here is one that's coming out in not too far. Well, a little far. I'm getting my Final Fantasies messed up. This is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the second in the trilogy of the Final Fantasy VII Remake games. So the first one was called Final Fantasy VII Remake. The next one is called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And the third one, I don't know what it's going to be called, but I bet it starts with Re. I am looking forward to this game. I never did finish Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I now have a clock that says early 2024 is the time when FF7 Rebirth comes out. So I guess I got to get cracking on that one.
Fill me in here. So was the original Final Fantasy VII in 3 parts as well?
No. So the original Final Fantasy VII was in 3 discs on the PlayStation 1. But it was a single game that came out once and you bought it all together in one package and that's what you did. This one, they've split it out because they're doing like voice acting and they're made a little more cinematic and they're like filling in some of the side characters a little bit more than they did. So you're getting a little bit more story and like they're changing the story a little bit, which some people like, some people didn't. Obviously they've completely changed the combat from kind of the turn-based JRPG classic style to a much more fluid action-based style with a little bit of still kind of, you've got these NPC characters that are fighting alongside you and you have to, go through menus a little bit to do some spells. But like generally it's much more active than the old Final Fantasy VII. I don't know. I was enjoying what I played of FF7 Remake. I just, other things came up and I never finished it.
So does the game that you already have, the remake, the first one, does it only tell a third of the story or is it like a complete arc of some sort?
It's a complete arc of its own, but it kind of like, I think it ties up. I mean, again, haven't finished it, so I don't know. I don't know how it ends exactly, but I'm kind of extrapolating from all the things that I've kind of heard and read that it kind of like ends in a self-contained way and kind of finishes out like an act of the story. And then it's like, okay, here's the same characters in the same, where last we left our heroes kind of a thing. And then it'll pick up in the second game. Okay.
I'm interested to see whether the second game allows you to kind of like use a save, like the Mass Effects kind of did a little bit, where, you know, the choices you make or something that happened kind of in the first game get saved and transferred to the next one, or even all of your gear and skills. Who knows? I don't know. I'm interested to see how that kind of jump from game 1 to game 2 works.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I mean, the game itself is fairly on rails. You know, I mean, there's collectibles and stuff like that, but like you're not making massive story choices. It's really much more of a, you know, linear story that you're telling and you're seeing, at least as far as I've experienced. So we'll see.
Mass Effect is more on rails than you think. There are some minor differences that matter between the games, and then obviously the endings of the games are kind of split a little bit. So, but I could see how like little decisions here and there. I don't know if you have any decision making ability whatsoever in 7, but that'd be cool. I think when the original Final Fantasy VII, the 3 different discs, were they 3 different games, or was it a continuous single linear game, leveling up, progression, all of that saved from one to the next?
Oh yeah, no, it was like you put the game disc in, you played through, you got to this boss battle, you beat the boss battle, and then it would like put up a little static card that said, please insert disc 2. And you would actually like open your PlayStation, pop out the disc while it was on, put in the next disc, and then it would keep going from there. So it was like a, you know, insert disc 2, like, and the game continued.
That's cool.
I think actually like the save files, if I'm remembering correctly, and I know this mostly from Final Fantasy IX, which came on 4 discs, that it actually said which disc you were on, like on the save load screen, like when you were loading, because you had to have, you know, you had to start from the correct disc basically, and like if you started from the wrong one, it would tell you like, hey, put in disc 3 or whatever, and that would be how you'd get to, you know, end game.
The one interesting note on this that I think someone in one of the Discords were in, and it screwed you up, right? It messed you up. Was they just announced Final Fantasy 16 is days away at this point, right? We're down to counting it in days. It is right around the corner. They should be using every available marketing dollar to hype Final Fantasy 16, and instead, during the Summer Games Fest, instead of anything mentioned about Final Fantasy 16, we get a Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth trailer, which is a huge announcement, right? They had not previously announced this. It was the first time that they are publicly acknowledging that they are working on this, or that they're going to release this. What the heck? Like, why are they pulling attention away from Final Fantasy 16 at this point? Like, in 4 weeks, they could announce this, and it would be a better, in my opinion, a better decision after Final Fantasy 16 has released.
I mean, yes, I think you're right, except that they probably don't have enough to make it stand an event on its own, and they probably just want to get it out there, because the game, when they did, you know, they said we're remaking Final Fantasy 7, they announced that as a trilogy. So like, it's not that this is a surprise, right? This is like, it's more of a, come on, tapping our foot, when's it coming? Like, let's go, keep on going. Because Final Fantasy 7 came out, you know, on the PS4 and PS5, and it was in like 2019, I want to say, when Final Fantasy 7 Remake came out in the beginning. So like, it's been 4 years. And so they're really just like, people are kind of like, hey, are you guys still making this, you know, second part to this 3-part thing that you said? Like, is it all going to come out that I can play it on the same console, or am I going to have to get a PS6 to play the third ending of it? Like, I think it was not inappropriate. I mean, it was a little weird for them to be announcing it right now at you know, before showing anything about Final Fantasy 16, but they did show FF16 at the PlayStation thing last week or 2 weeks ago. So it's not like they're not doing any marketing for 16. It's just this one, yeah, it muddies the waters a little bit, but they did have to remind people that they are still working on it.
That's fair. I get that. I just think that they are 4 weeks too early.
Well, you can call Square Enix and talk to the Final Fantasy people. And while you're doing that, can you tell them to put Final Fantasy IX Remake on their agenda?
Yeah, you know, okay, so as the trailer was coming, I'm not familiar with Final Fantasy at all, right? I'm totally lost when it comes to Final Fantasy. So they start to show the trailer, and I'm thinking in my head, oh, Chris thinks or knows or something, suspects that Final Fantasy IX Remake is coming out at some point, right? They're working on it, or they're going to be working on it. So I'm thinking in my head, oh, are they announcing the Final Fantasy IX Remake? And very quickly you start to see characters that you recognize from Final Fantasy VII. But that's what I thought it was starting as. That's where I thought it was going.
Yeah, no such luck. I will just have to continue to wait. There is a Final Fantasy 16 pre-launch celebration that's coming out today. Like as we're recording, it's like 30 minutes from now. And the Twitterverse rumors right now are that there's going to be a live demo, like a downloadable demo available coming out of that event. So I am pretty excited about that. But I'm hoping for some kind of reveal about a Final Fantasy IX remake because it's an all Final Fantasy show. And wouldn't that be an interesting little weird trailer at the end of their FF16 thing, since they don't seem to care about the consistency in their marketing? But I know that that's wish casting, and I'm not really seriously expecting it.
Yeah, I could see them just like at the end of it, just being like putting the number 9 or something.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be really, really cool. The other thing I wanted to mention in passing that came up during the Summer Games Fest I saw in the kind of news reporting coverage is that we got a date for the Spider-Man 2 game, the PlayStation game. That's coming on October 20th. So not too long to wait. And now we actually have a date. So that's pretty exciting.
For the listeners out there, I want everyone to start counting the times that we say October, because this is the first one.
Okay, that about wraps it up for Summer's Game Fest about the things that we care about. There were a bunch of other announcements. You can go ahead and look those up yourself if you're interested. If there's something that we missed that you think is super important or that we would like that we didn't talk about, you can send it our way. Are you ready to move on to the best deal in gaming?
The best deal in gaming confirmed yet again.
They might have just called it the best deal in gaming showcase.
They should have.
The reason that we're saying this is because there were, I want to say, probably 3/4, if not 80% of the games that they talked about in the Xbox showcase that were on Game Pass day one.
And that's the thing, right? That's the big difference. Is they're not like, oh, they're coming to Game Pass. It's they had the tag, right? They had the I mean, it was a tag, right? At the end of the trailer that was like, oh, this is a Game Pass game. But then they confirmed every time that it was, oh, this is a Game Pass game, is this is a day one Game Pass game, which to us, right? The thing that really matters to us, right, is that it lowers that barrier to entry to nothing, right? For Chris and I, because we're subscribed for who knows how long, through the magic of buying ahead of time and getting it super cheap. It's essentially becomes a free game, right? The barrier to entry is 0 for Chris and I. And that means all of these games that we're like kind of interested in, we're like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to try that. And then all of the games that we're super excited for that, again, really high hopes and maybe low expectations, there's no risk, right? Just go try the game, go buy it. And then maybe you have to wait 4 to 6 months for the bugs to get worked out. But no worries. You didn't spend any additional money on buying that game. It's just a day one Game Pass. And every time it's like, I think there were a couple of times throughout this showcase where I was very, very kind of hyped, excited, and even a little surprised that certain things were day one Game Pass.
I mean, I think starting out, you've got to look at the first game that they showed, which was Fable. So this is something that's been in the works for a really long time. Fable was a game series that was on the original Xbox, I think.
Yeah.
It's like a fantasy, is an RPG. I'm not really sure what the gameplay style is actually, but I remember everybody was very excited about Fable when it was a thing, like when it was new, and it won a bunch of awards, and it was like this really groundbreaking game and all of this stuff. And I kind of missed it because I didn't have an Xbox, and I just kind of missed it by a few years to be able to play it on PC and stuff back in the day. So I never played a Fable game, but I'm pretty excited about this one.
It's going to be a big game. I think, it's I mean, really, quite honestly, it's Xbox's Final Fantasy. Really, I mean, if you boil it down,
yeah.
And it is an RPG type game, and everything that goes along with that. And I think it just goes to show that they showed a trailer for it. It was kind of a story trailer. No, at least from what I could tell, no gameplay, or I don't remember any gameplay. They didn't they didn't announce a release date. But they did say that Fable was going to be a day one Game Pass game. And that was really, really impressive to me and very telling on what their strategy is here. And, this massive game that they've, theoretically been working on for months, that's going to be, a true big AAA kind of big release for Xbox, is a Game Pass game.
I think they said that they were going to have like all of their first party studios do that, right? They're going to do day one Game Pass. Am I misremembering that?
I think so. I mean, I think they're basically committing to all of their first party things being Game Pass. I mean, if I look down this list here real fast, I think that's correct. I mean, because we'll talk about the other really big one, right, coming up. That is also, got some news around it. But I'm impressed that they're sticking to that, is really, I guess, the thing, right? Because PlayStation has said, hey, we have this subscription service. Our games are not going to be, like, they're going to go to it eventually, but they're not going to be day one. That's just not our business model. And Xbox has showed and committed and is really standing behind the idea that this is their product now. Their product is access to games, game studios, games being created and being available to, I mean, like they've said time and time again, to anyone and everyone that wants to play them in any way they want to play them. And I'm really starting to see that. Even though we've just talked about Game Pass for like a hot minute, the next game on the list that we want to talk about is not a Game Pass game, but is very exciting. It is, I didn't know it was happening. I knew nothing about it, but they announced Star Wars Outlaws during the Xbox game showcase, which I'm surprised about that they announced it today. I don't know how that happened or why that happened, because it is an Ubisoft game. And Ubisoft's, like we said at the top of the show, Ubisoft's Forward, their direct showcase is tomorrow. So why this got announced today, I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe because it's a larger audience, that could possibly be. But I just had goosebumps during this trailer. I like just the whole thing, watching it happen, like watching Lucasfilm games come up on screen and then just watching the story kind of progress and everything happen. It was excellent.
And that's the thing. The story you mentioned, right? It starts off in like a cantina, and they're showing like this kind of tense negotiation of this person. You don't know who it is, but this woman. And then like they kind of hit on all of the best notes of like a Star Wars cantina, like what you would kind of expect and what you would want from like a longer Star Wars cantina scene. And that was really cool, even just to be in that universe, right? Because that's the best part about Star Wars, is like being in that world and feeling like it is a real working, kind of Star Wars universe, right? There's all these different levels of seediness and order and not, and all of those things. And it really felt very lived in this trailer, and it was really cool. You could see how everything was coming together. And I don't know how much of that, it was all, I think, in engine, but like it was hard to tell what things you might get to play and what things were more like cinematics. I mean, the whole thing played out cinematically, obviously, but I don't know what the game is, but I'm very excited about it.
Based on what I saw and based on what we know about who's making, right? It's an Ubisoft game. I expect, and I could be wrong, but I expect just the way it kind of came across for this to be what I'm calling an Assassin's Creed Star Wars game.
Okay.
And I think when I say that, a lot of people will immediately understand what I mean. Like this open world kind of, you have the main story, lots of side quests, go wherever you want, but there's kind of like really, things get harder and certain levels for certain, I'm imagining an Assassin's Creed game, but with a Star Wars, in the Star Wars world with a Star Wars skin. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I would say I'm here for that.
I mean, I just think back to like how much I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Like I really liked Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I imagine like in my head what that would have been like if it was a Star Wars game instead. And I think I really, really would have enjoyed that. So that's what I'm hoping for. I think that's what I honestly, I think Star Wars needs a game like that. I can't really think of one like that too much. I can't think of a Star Wars game that really fits that description. So I have hope that that's what it is. I have medium expectations for that. That's what it is. And we'll see. They announced 2024 is really all they said. So we have a while to wait. I wonder if they'll announce more about it or show more about it tomorrow at the Ubisoft Forward event. But I'm really excited for this.
Remind me, you still haven't seen Andor, have you?
I have not, and I plan on it. It's on my list. It's like next on my list. But I have not. And, you know, it's interesting that you brought that up because as I was watching the trailer for this game, I was thinking about Andor.
Yeah, you absolutely. I mean, I don't think they're going to tie together by any stretch. I'm not saying like you have to watch Andor before you play this game, but like if you're looking for some hype for this game, I would recommend watching Andor because it's like the grittier side of Star Wars. And I think you said that like as the trailer was rolling, you said like, oh, is this like a gritty Star Wars game? And like that is what it kind of looks like. And that is what Andor is on the TV side.
Okay. All right. I mean, listen, you don't have to sell me. I'm sold. I just need to sit down and do it.
The next game on the Xbox showcase, which was a Game Pass game, as most of them were, was a game that we both were kind of watching and we're like, okay. I mean, this is kind of generic. Looks like a little generic indie game, whatever, dungeon crawly kind of thing. And then we're like, oh, look, there's maybe a little bit of co-op. And then like this title card shows up on the screen. It's like 33 player online co-op. And we're like, what?
Yeah, I remember Chris saying like, this is meh unless there's something special about it. And then it's a 33 player co-op and we both were just like, oh, okay, there it is. That's the reveal we were waiting for during this trailer. I don't know. It seems like you said, like very generic-y kind of dungeon crawlery. Like, I think you said like, is this like a simple version of Hades? And I was like, yeah, maybe. Like, it's just like, I don't know, swordplay, top-down-ish kind of isometric stuff. Who knows? I don't really know. And then there's just more and more players on screen and more players and more. And then they show like the entire screen just being filled with players and enemies. And I'm intrigued. I mean, it's Game Pass, right? So we'll see. I have no idea how that's going to work. Like 33 players at one time in a relatively small space, right? Like it was showing them all on the screen at the same time. I don't know if that's actually how it's going to play out or if that was really just for, you know, the trailer's sake, but we don't know anything more. I don't know anything more about this game or what its story is or how it plays out or if it's replayable or there's a lot of unanswered questions about this game.
One of the questions that we had while we were watching it when it said 33 player co-op, we're like, why 33 players? Like 32 is much more, you know, kind of a powers of two kind of normal number for computery things. And so you would kind of expect, you know, 32 player or 64 player co-op. This one is 33. And I was like, oh, it's probably just because that was what they could get working technically. And then they showed the title of this game, which is 33 Immortals. So it's a marketing gimmick. Like that's their thing is the 33. So I understand now why it's 33 and not 32 or 64.
Just seems weird. I don't know. It did its thing though, right? Like it was just like, here's something weird. Now you're interested. And I was like, yeah, okay, you got me. Chris, I'm going to go grab a drink and let you talk about this next one. I'll be back in maybe a couple minutes.
Yeah, sure. So there was a trailer and they did this to us either last year or the year before that obviously was in the Sea of Thieves engine. And I'm like, ooh, new Sea of Thieves, like new content. It's been way too long since they've come out with any sort of story content at all in Sea of Thieves. So come on, let's go. And then they start to show things that I start to recognize very vaguely as Monkey Island things. So in the Sea of Thieves game as it is, there's actually a quest, and I feel like it might have been in the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, where there was like a side area that was all kind of themed after Monkey Island story beats, kind of like it had a bunch of like allusions to the idea of the Monkey Island people. And I will confess right now up front that I have not played the Monkey Island games, and it is now on my list to do that. There is one of them that is on Game Pass right now, Return to Monkey Island, which is like the kind of like 15 years later sequel game that came out. It's on Game Pass. I'm going to have to give it a try and see kind of how it goes.
Okay. Well, so I was just going to let Chris talk forever, but I have to jump in here and say I haven't played Monkey Island either. I don't. Is it? It was like one of those click games, right? It was a point and click kind of mystery game.
It was a point and click adventure, yes, like a puzzle, like not puzzle, but like point and click adventure game. We'll say 2D,
okay,
sort of side scrolly. And like you had to find the items and like combine the items and talk to people and like get the items from the people, and like you had like a little inventory that had 6 or 8 things. And yeah, I mean, it was a very, it grew up in the like DOS game era.
Yeah, it's like a Putt-Putt's Adventure, but for kind of adults, maybe, kind of.
Exactly. Yes.
So there seems to be like this cult around people that liked or played Monkey Island.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't really speak to it other than I know people like it. It's kind of got a very humorous bent to it. That's kind of its gimmick. So I will see. I've not been impressed with most of the humor stuff that I've seen of it, but this seems to be a fairly faithful recreation of Monkey Island-esque things in Sea of Thieves. So we'll see.
You have to play it, because I'm not going to, and it's just not going to happen. And I want your educated opinion about the Legend of Monkey Island, parts of Sea of Thieves. As we're watching this trailer, I think I said, am I the one that said, I'm sure people who have played Monkey Island are very impressed right now? Like,
yes,
I just,
you did say that.
Just didn't get it. And I'm watching and I was like, I bet there's like so many inside jokes or references that are happening right now, and I don't get any of them.
Yeah, they went over my head too, so I can't really help you there.
Well, you have just over a month to play Monkey Island.
Yes, this one comes out on July 20th as a free update to Sea of Thieves, just like the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff was either a year or two ago as a free update. So I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of stuff in the real money shop as far as cosmetics, and I don't think I'll get sucked into any of those, but we'll see. But very much, yes, looking forward to new stuff coming to Sea of Thieves.
It would not have been a Microsoft-sponsored showcase if they did not show Microsoft Flight Simulator at least once during the showcase in some way or form. They did talk about some kind of expansion or new version or something related to Flight Simulator and careers, which seemed kind of cool, but that's not what we're going to talk about right now. What we want to talk about was the little teaser they did at the end where they showed the Dune Dragonfly as now a part of Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I was very impressed with. A little while ago, they did the Halo transport, like the Pelican, right? And they added that to Flight Simulator. And now they're adding the Dune Dragonfly, which I was just like, oh, that's so cool.
I'm sure the people who have seen Dune are really impressed by this right now.
Oh, Chris.
But I am not one of those people. I have not seen Dune and I have not read the book. So I apologize for my pop culture ignorance.
I have not read the book either. You want to know what's really interesting? My first exposure to Dune was a video game. I played a Dune Spice Wars RTS video game a long, long time ago. And that is my first kind of like memory of Dune or the Dune world, of the Dune universe. And more recently, I've seen the first movie, the first half, right? And then the second half is actually coming out, I think, early next year or late 2023. I liked it. I think it was really cool. I really like the lore and the politics and the world building behind Dune. I've always kind of wanted to read the books, but I know that they're like really long and maybe not exactly my sci-fi writing style that I really like, but I'm always intrigued by it. I'm always intrigued by that world. I would highly, highly recommend the movie. If you're not interested in going to see, or if you're not interested in seeing the movie, I would say definitely wait until the next one comes out and watch them kind of as a 2-part series. Because I think it will be better to watch them all together unless you're really interested in the first one. The other thing I will say about the movie, I'm just going to go on a tangent here. The other thing I will say about the movie is what I'm hoping they do, Chris, what I'm hoping they do is show the first one in IMAX or Dolby Digital again when the second one comes out, so you can go and watch the first one and then go watch the second one maybe 2 weeks later, because these movies are excellent on a big screen.
All right. Yes, I would love to do that if that is an option, because Dune was one of those ones that came out kind of during the pandemic and like it went to theaters and kind of HBO Max at the same time or something, but it was still in theaters, but I did not see it either place. So I will maybe look forward to that and see if there's any theaters that pick it up and show the first one again when the second one comes out.
That'd be a good idea. That'd be a good way to do it.
So when we watch these game events, right, there's a lot of games that come out that I look at them and I say, man, that's a really well done trailer, or, oh, that game looks kind of neat. And then I just have to like stare in the mirror of reality and say, but I'm never going to play this game. And the next game that we're going to talk about is one of those through and through. So as we all know, Bethesda is owned by Microsoft now, which makes them kind of, in the Game Pass family. And we'll talk a lot about them later if we get to talk about Starfield. But they showed a very fun musical trailer for the new expansion that's coming to Fallout 76 for Atlantic City.
For some reason, I'm feeling that this is not the first trailer that we have said this about in reference to Fallout 76. Do they keep doing this? Is this the second one that's like this?
The second trailer.
Fallout 76 musical trailer?
Oh, yes. Well, the first one, they had John Denver, right? They played Country Roads, but it wasn't like they didn't like make up their own song.
Well, this is the second expansion. Wasn't the first expansion also a musical trailer that we should go back in our show notes and see if we mentioned Fallout 76 before? Because I feel like we've had this exact conversation before.
We may have. I'm not sure that we have, but this one was quite good. It was in that kind of like whoop-de-doo mid-century kind of, the thing that comes to mind is The Universe and You, but that's a very specific reference. It just was that kind of happy, shiny, like salesperson pitch. And they had like little, backup singers that were singing like, the jingle or whatever you want to say, about this new expansion coming out. And it was very Fallout-y still. It looks really cool. They showed a thing where they had like Nuka World, which is, they have Nuka-Cola in the Fallout games. And they showed like essentially a branded little carnival or theme park or whatever, kind of like the Atlantic City, like boardwalk kind of a thing. This kind of world building is why I like Fallout so much. It's just really a shame that I do not sit down and play these games because they're not that fun for me. Like people love them. I get it. But I played Fallout 3. I like platinum trophied it on the PS3 and it was great. I got Fallout 4 and I barely played it. And then Fallout 76, forget it.
I agree with you. I think Fallout builds a very cool world. Every time I hear about it and I learn about it, I'm always like, oh, that's very interesting. I've never played a Fallout game. I will never play Fallout 76. It just won't happen. But things like this are what like draw me in to maybe like want to watch it. But then I remember like what Fallout 76's gameplay is, and I'm like, it's not a story. It's like a multiplayer like survival crafting game. And I'm just very confused about how they mix these things together. So it was an excellent trailer. I think your point about being, very fun and very drawing was right. I will never play 76.
I wish they would make well, I don't know. I shouldn't put this out in the universe, but I was going to say, I wish they would make like a Fallout movie or TV show, probably even better, a TV show. I would love that.
Oh, a TV show would be cool. I'd watch that.
Yeah. So we'll put that out in the world. Hey, people that have been watching The Last of Us and thinking it's successful, go ahead and talk to the Bethesda people and work on Fallout, please.
Hey, can I put us on a tangent for a second?
Sure. Why not?
Have you seen the trailers for the Gran Turismo movie?
I have not. I knew that they were making one, but I have no idea what it is.
I went and saw a movie in the theaters the other day. Oh, I went and saw Guardians. I went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy. And there was a Gran Turismo trailer. And it looked very good. Extremely good. And I'm so excited for it.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. I was very impressed on the quality and what I was seeing and like how involved I was and how invested I was with wanting to know what happens. Apparently it's based on our true story. So like people know what happened. I don't know where it goes or what the ending is like or what happens. My brother has promised to not tell me. So I'm going into the Gran Turismo movie, like actually genuinely interested in like what happens in the story. But the trailer looked excellent.
Huh. I mean, I like Gran Turismo the games, so I'm here for it, for the movie. I enjoyed the Uncharted movie, even though I know that people didn't like it and it was basically Pirates of the Caribbean. But like, I'm looking forward to this. Sure. Yeah, I'll go see it.
The reason I bring this up is because the next game that, Xbox showed was Forza Motorsport, which is the parallel to Gran Turismo. but Forza Motorsport 8 was kind of a bit of a focus during the showcase today. And it reminded me of the Gran Turismo movie, which I guess means the movie is doing exactly what it's designed to do and market Gran Turismo. But Forza Motorsport 8, I guess. Is it 8? Is it Forza Motorsport? Did they take the number out? I don't know.
I was just about to say, I'm not sure that it's still called Forza Motorsport 8. I had written that in our document when it was happening, and then I took it out when I saw the logo because it's just called Forza Motorsport now, which I thought was pretty interesting because that may signal a shift to more of a, not live service, but just kind of like continually updated kind of a game. I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think that this is a perfect game for that. I think they make a decent amount of money on microtransactions on this game, new cars coming out and all of that. And I think they could probably effectively transition to that for Forza Motorsport. I don't, because it doesn't have too much of a story per se, whereas Forza Horizon does, right? Forza Horizon having, Forza Horizon 4 and then 5 and then, so 6 and 7, and that makes sense because there's a bit of a story involved. There's new locations, whereas Motorsport is like you go to the racetrack, right? You travel around the world for the different racetracks. So there's nothing preventing you from going to the US, to Europe, to South America, to wherever the next racetrack is. You just load in. I could see that. I have not traditionally played Motorsport as much as Horizon. I do like Forza Motorsport. I have played it. My biggest problem with it was the loading screens, and I think they have solved that problem. It looks beautiful. I mean, it's Xbox's R&D project in a game.
I mean, that's how it's always been for Gran Turismo, for Sony on PlayStation as well. Like, these people, they sequester themselves in a room for, years at a time and just work with the hardware and try to like squeeze every little bit of performance they can out of whatever the current hardware is. It's kind of like the flight simulator people too, I would imagine, where they all just kind of like are really pushing the envelope on what can be done on the existing hardware that came out, a year or two ago. And then they always have an eye towards the next one. It does look great. I mean, I don't know. Does it look, do you think, better than like Forza Horizon 5 does? Like, I think they're pretty comparable.
I think they are. I think the thing with Motorsport is that it's a more realistic setting. So it's a lot easier to look realistic because they're not fighting with unrealistic arcadey kind of settings. Right. They're on a track that has very precise kind of walls and roads, and they're dealing with rain that is on a predictable surface, whereas in Forza Motorsport you're driving across the dunes of Mexico. Like, what? So I mean, but it's fun. They're different games, right? One's an arcade driver and one's a little bit more of a simulator driver. I don't think Forza Motorsport is all the way to the simulation side, but it is, on that pendulum a little closer to the simulator than the arcade. I very rarely appreciate the visuals in a game. I appreciate the visuals and the graphics in Forza Motorsport, just because of how good they are and of how, in my opinion, they put their focus in the right place, to things that just seem to me to be like very meaningful and very real. It's always been impressive, the things that they show in Forza Motorsport, to the point where I think during this trailer, in my mind, I was like, are we still looking at a game? Are we sure we're still looking at a game? Obviously, they're only showing the best clips, right? They're only showing you the perfect renders and the perfect outputs from this game. But there are points in which you're like, I think we're still looking at a game, but I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it looks great. And I think that's really... I don't know. That's where we are, right? In the bounded, to your point, kind of problem space of racing games. I mean, Gran Turismo, even Gran Turismo 7 on PlayStation 5 looks great as well. I mean, it's just that's how these things are.
Oh, but here's the best part. You ready? It's Game Pass. So, barrier to entry, nothing.
It is Game Pass, but also, I don't know if you saw, but they are doing the same thing that they did with Forza Horizon, where if you get kind of like the Game Pass premium pack or whatever you want to say, right? The thing that is essentially the deluxe edition for people that already are getting the game through Game Pass, you get 5 days of early access.
Whoa.
I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but we did buy this for Horizon, literally for that reason.
Yeah, I remember. I don't think I'm as excited for this as I was for Horizon, but who knows? I mean, you can buy it after the fact too, right? You get all the other goodies except for the 5-day early access.
Yes, they have it available already in the shop, or at least they're advertising it on the page as a $40 add-on to get the premium edition, which is interesting because it's $40 to buy this little add-on pack thing, and it's only a $30 difference if you're buying the $70 game versus the $100 premium edition. So they're making an extra $10 if you're a Game Pass subscriber.
Interesting.
Well, kind of.
Interesting. Not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'll be playing this. I'll be playing it for free. I don't think I'm going to buy the $40 upgrade. We'll see. But this makes it so easy now. I remember when Xbox Game Pass was first coming out, and you were just like, are they going to include the Forza games? And if they are, that's almost an immediate, sell to me, because I was buying each Forza game every year it came out, which was typically Motorsport 1 year, Horizon the next, back and forth. For the full price of $100, right? So if you put that all together, then you're in the $100 a year price range already, because you're buying the premium version of a game that comes out every year. Best deal in gaming.
I will also play this on Game Pass. I will probably not buy it either way because, a week is not that big a deal, and I don't care about the cars that are available to me, I don't think, in this game, because it's not as arcadey. So I will just take the cars as they come and see how they go. And for the 7 times that I'm going to play this game total in my life, I don't need to have every single car unlocked. So I think we'll just let this one be a Game Pass game. The next game that they showed at this Xbox Game Pass showcase, no, it's the Xbox showcase, and this game is not a Game Pass game, so I shouldn't even say that, was our great old friend Overwatch 2, still kicking, still moving on, and it didn't look bad.
But wait, Chris, Microsoft doesn't own Blizzard yet.
Not yet, but they're still working on it. They're still trying.
I was impressed to see this game on this list. I was more impressed on what they announced.
Yeah, so Overwatch 2, as we all may remember, was supposed to be this grand overhaul with this huge, single player or co-op campaign with hero progression and all of this stuff. Lots of things other than playing kind of team deathmatch games online that were supposed to come to Overwatch 2. And then I don't know, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, they did this big mea culpa thing, and they the game director wrote a note and they announced all this stuff, and they said, oh yeah, we're not going to do any of that stuff because it got out of control, and we couldn't do the hero progression stuff because it was hard to balance, or I don't know what happened, or we made these really cool skill tree screens that you saw in this trailer 2 years ago, but they're not going to happen, and we're just not going to do any of that. So instead we're going to focus our efforts on the live game because we feel like we've neglected the live game, so we're going to really refocus and do better, and we're sorry, and please play our game. And that was not met well.
No, I was not met well, and I think most others saw that as the death of PvE in Overwatch, right? They said, oh, we're gonna do little updates and scenarios like we've been doing in each season, where there's a little maybe a PvE scenario or whatever, and we were like, okay, whatever, but that's not a cohesive kind of PvE experience. And then they hit us over the head with this trailer.
Yeah, they showed all sorts of stuff that was very cinematic, very story driven, very reminiscent of those kind of co-op story missions that they have done in the past for Overwatch 1, right? Where they would do those limited time events where they would kind of tell a story, and it would be a level that had PvE stuff where you and 3 other people kind of teamed up, and you would play through a scenario or something. They showed more of that kind of stuff. And they said that this update, which they're calling Overwatch 2 Invasion, is coming out on August 10th. And it looks like it's going to be significant parts of kind of that story promise, which is why it's so weird that they very recently announced that they weren't going to do this stuff.
I mean, it seems to me they announced story missions, they announced co-op events, these were the highlights, right? Story missions, co-op events, hero mastery, or Hero Masteries or something like that. New game modes, which I think is a little bit more targeted at that live service side of things. But the cinematic that was going on as they're announcing this was all about like, oh, something's happening. We have to like help with this. We have to target this. And it's all, like very clearly like a co-op kind of scenario going on. But then when they showed like kind of what's coming, it made me feel like this is one kind of maybe chapter in a developing story. That's how I felt. I'm very confused because based on what they're showing here, I feel like the only thing that they're not delivering on are those hero like skill trees. And if they would have come out and said, listen, we're reimagining how we're planning on doing co-op. We promised these hero skill trees, but it's really not doing what we wanted to from a gameplay. And they spun it kind of like, hey, it's not doing what we thought it would do. It's not really working. And they said, but we're still going to deliver you story missions and whatnot. It's just like there's going to be slightly different ways of progressing rather than these hero skill trees. I think they would have been like, okay. I think everyone would have been like, okay, that's a little disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. I just feel like they went about it all wrong. And maybe I'm just way overselling what they're going to deliver on August 10th. But I just feel like the message that was delivered was we are abandoning, for all intents and purposes, PvE. And that's kind of the message that permeated throughout the internet. And it was actually not that bad.
I think that it won't be as big as we're thinking that it will be. I mean, they say it's their biggest update ever, and they showed a few things that were like, oh, here's like a target practice where they showed like a little like carnival game with like little targets basically. And they had like time trial looking things for like you could do hero mastery stuff, I guess. So you could say like, get through this obstacle course as Sombra or something like that, which is cool. I mean, all that stuff is neat. That's not PvE scenarios. So if they're saying this is their biggest update and it's going to include some of that stuff, it's probably going to include like one or maybe two of those, I would expect. And then they're on a seasonal model now, right? So they're getting ready to gear up for, I think, season 5 at this point of Overwatch 2, which is free to play. Also, remember, it was supposed to be free to play for kind of the gameplay and then like paid to do the story stuff. But instead they're kind of doing this seasonal battle pass thing. So I could see them going either every season or maybe every other season, and doing something with the story missions or something like that. They really have started to kind of do that whole content drip live service thing pretty well, it seems like. They've got new heroes every other season also. So I don't know. This could be a little bit of a resurgence for Overwatch, and I'm not against really trying it again. I would say, like, I'm not super good at Overwatch. I played it to play with friends when I did play it on the PS4, but if we got a group of people together, I would play it again.
I'd play co-op, sure.
All right, I'm looking at the clock, and we're about halfway through the showcase here, and we've been recording for an hour and 20 minutes at this point. We'll keep going. I'm going to just skip over the giant elephant in the room, which was Starfield that was shown next, but we're not going to talk about that right this minute. So we'll keep moving on to, I don't know how to pronounce this, but Jusant, something like that, Jusant, which was a Game Pass, day one Game Pass game. It was looking like a climbing puzzle game. They showed like a person with like a cute little animal on their shoulder or whatever. And they were climbing a mountain, and then they showed them like climbing all these different other mountains and things, and like in a town interacting with people, and then like solving what looked like puzzles. I'm not sure. This is kind of like a climbing puzzle game. I don't know. This looks like a very me kind of a game, and I am looking forward to giving it a try, and it comes out on this fall on Game Pass.
I was interested in this. It's definitely kind of a casual kind of play it at your own pace puzzle. I mean, it looked like a puzzle game. They didn't really confirm whether it was puzzly or whether it was more like adventure-y. I would hope that it's a little puzzly, but none of the things that were shown looked anything like you have to figure this out. everything looked like that's where you go next, and there's really no figuring out to do. So I'm hoping it just didn't come across well in the trailer, and that it is a little bit more like, hey, you have to kind of like look around and find out what you have to do, and how do you get higher on this mountain. So that's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see. Game Pass makes it easy to try. The art style was good. I liked it. It seemed interesting. I would definitely try this game. Chris, if you reference back to some older episodes of P&A, you may find that I like trains.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I love trains, man.
World premiere. Jason likes trains.
Yeah, Jason likes trains. Did we talk about it last episode that I was playing Railway Empire 2?
I think we might have, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I like trains. They're good. Not exactly trains, but from a company that makes a lot of transport games. They announced, I don't know if it was an announcement, I'm pretty sure we already knew about it, but there was a trailer for City Skylines 2. And they focused on a lot of the transport, which is kind of where City Skylines came from and whatnot. But City Skylines 2, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what I saw. I really liked City Skylines 1, but I always felt like there was a bit of tension in playing it. Just like some of the systems just felt like incomplete and whatnot. And you were relying on a lot of add-ons, which made it very just a lot of friction in playing, right? Crashing or save files getting corrupted or whatever. I just never had a great experience with City Skylines 1. That kind of kept me away from it, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm very excited for City Skylines 2. They seem to be focusing, at least from the trailer's perspective, a lot on the tooling and a lot of the things that the mods were trying to do. It seems like they kind of took that to heart and said, hey, we're going to try to include a lot of this, directly within the game now, which makes me very hopeful that it will kind of live up to what I've always wanted out of City Skylines. And I am looking forward to it. It is day one Game Pass and October 24th. So I don't have to wait that long, but there's another October date for you. And I don't know. I like city builder games. I liked City Skylines, and I'm ready for this one.
Yeah, as I was watching this trailer, I was getting serious SimCity vibes, which is obvious because, it's kind of a spiritual successor to SimCity. And I loved SimCity when I was a kid. So, and I'm like, I'm kind of, I don't know, I feel like I'm on the pendulum swing of some of the older game styles. I'm coming around. I'm like, man, I should play another, city builder game again or whatever. Or there was another game that was shown in the PC Games Fest that was about like a theme park builder, like a roller coaster tycoon. And I was like, ooh, it's been a long time since I played one of those and liked it. I tried Planet Coaster and it was fine. I would expect I would have a similar experience there. But I don't know. I feel like again, the pendulum has kind of swung to the point where I want to like give these kinds of games a try again. And City Skylines 2 will be definitely, I will play it when it comes out in October.
Did you play City Skylines 1?
Barely. I think I have it, and I think I've launched it like once, but I didn't play it with mods. I was really just trying to play vanilla, and I remember having fun with it for like a half hour, but it's that's not enough to play a city builder game. So I would say no, I really didn't play it.
Okay. I enjoyed it. I think it was solid. It was a very good successor to SimCity. I liked it a lot. I think it had a lot of those elements, and it really was a faithful kind of next generation of that genre of game.
I think what this might also be signifying here for me, Jason, is I might want to play Factorio again or something. This kind of like building management games.
Yep. Oh, I'm feeling that.
I think that might be it, right? That might be the itch I'm trying to scratch.
Okay. We're way off subject now, but expansion for Factorio?
It's coming. It's not out yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, okay. I've heard that before.
The next game on the list is really an oddball one for us because it's not the kind of game that we usually talk about. But it was a game from the makers of Persona 3, 4, and 5. And it's like a really, really JRPG. Like, it is the most Japanese.
That is such an accurate description.
It is the most Japanese JRPG that I've seen in a while that I've actually had any sort of interest in. And this was a game called Metaphor Re Fantazio. And it gives me like good kind of like old school Final Fantasy vibes, but in like modern engines and stuff like that with a little flavor of Persona. I've never played the Persona games. I will confess. There were several Persona announcements that happened during the Microsoft showcase that are Game Pass, which is great. This game I don't believe was a Game Pass option, but was still very intriguing to me as something I might keep an eye on depending on how Final Fantasy 16 goes and how my gaming calendar is looking. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say on this one other than I was intrigued.
I was not. I am dipping my toe into the water with Final Fantasy 16 with JRPGs and that just whole kind of realm. And this one was just way too far over that for me. There's no way you will get me to play this game. I am excited that you are excited for it, or at least interested in it. I'm sure there are people out there that are very excited for it. Not one for me.
Moving right along, I was really waiting for like any more of the like indie looking co-op. I was really hoping for some roguelike deck builders, if it's me. Didn't really see much of those, and this next one isn't one of those either. But there was a game that started to show things with a lot of hexagons on a grid, and that was a little bit intriguing to us. And then they started to talk about co-op and started to show a little bit of gameplay. And the game that they showed was called Towerborne. And I think actually, Jason, you called this in the first like 3.5 seconds of the trailer. You're like, this is a Chris game. You're going to like this. And like, we had no idea what it was. Like we didn't know what it was going to be, but like they showed this like fantasy world and like this little animation style. And they had this really kind of crazy fantasy, like windmill thing with a bunch of like houses built on the side of it. And you're right. I did like it, and it was pretty cool. And I am interested in this game. But Towerborne with an E, the way that I described it based on the trailer that we had was a co-op fantasy beat 'em up. So it looked a little bit like Castle Crashers, where you had like 4 players, up to 4 players, and they were like on a side scrolly kind of game, like a Streets of Rage or something like that. And then they also had a lot of exploration and like chests and stuff. Like it looked like there was like an RPG element to it. So I don't know. I was really interested in this, and I hope that I can convince you to play it at least for a little while.
I think you could. I think this is one of those games that's going to benefit greatly from being on Game Pass. This is one of those games that I think the low barrier to entry with Game Pass does great things for it. I think a lot of people will try it, and I actually suspect, based on what we saw, and if it's good, a lot of people will really like it that wouldn't have experienced it otherwise. So I might be one of them, right? I'm going to try it because I know you're going to try it, and I'm going to be right there behind you, kind of because it's easy with Game Pass. But I don't think I would have tried this game otherwise, unless it came through like on a Humble Bundle or something like that. So this is a prime example of something that I think will benefit greatly from Game Pass. And I will definitely be there to play it, beside you, because it is co-op, and that's a pretty easy thing for me to say yes to. It's funny you started this by saying that I knew exactly like this was a game for you. We're really starting to get into, I think we said it last episode, where like within the first couple of seconds you can be like, those are multiplayer characters, like a multiplayer shooter character, and you're like, yep, that's a multiplayer shooter character. And like within the first 5 seconds of this game, you're just like, oh, okay, this is that kind of style or that kind of artwork game. Like, it just fits into a stereotype. Let's be honest. It fits into a certain stereotype, and you're like, oh, this is for this kind of person. And it's easy to identify, I think, a lot of what you like based on art, and then from very early, like from how the animation works and all of that. And typically those lead to a certain kind of game. So you can tell pretty early. I mean, I think the other thing that you kind of mentioned is really early. You seemed to always perk up during these showcases when something cell shaded came up, and you were like, oh, yep. Okay. And it maybe wasn't a game you were interested in, but it really got you to pay attention at least. So it's interesting to see how we're starting to form into kind of like sectors of the genre, like the genre also having an art style that it kind of sticks to. Maybe we've always been there, but it's really starting to become apparent that, certain genres are really like sticking to a certain art style, and it's becoming much easier to identify the kind of game it's going to be based on the art style.
Definitely. And I think my cell shaded kind of sense is heightened because I've been playing a lot of Zelda, which is also cell shaded. I mean, it looks really good, but it is technically cell shaded. I think that's where a lot of the sensitivity or interest in that comes from for me, because I'm like, ooh, I'm playing Zelda right now. I'm close to being done with it. And I like that game. And so I'm kind of in tune with other games that look like that. I think, I don't know. Yes, we definitely have our own styles that we like, but I don't find myself drawn to the grittier kinds of things. I'll play them sometimes, but usually that means shooters. And as we all know, I'm not terribly good at shooters, so I tend not to gravitate towards those.
The Xbox Games Showcase did include a segment on Starfield. It was simply just a trailer. I don't know if they had previously announced a release date for Starfield. I actually don't remember. But during this trailer, during the Xbox Game Showcase, they did announce, or they did show, a release date of September 6th, 2023.
You'll notice that that's not in October.
No, that's not. You're right. That's not in October. But it'll, as we'll talk about maybe in a couple of minutes, it will extend into October for sure.
Oh my goodness. I'm thinking that this is a very natural breaking point. Like, we've gotten through the Summer Games Fest. Well, we did whatever PC stuff, but then we did the Summer Games Fest, we did the Xbox stuff. There was an entire Starfield Direct, essentially, like a Starfield showcase or whatever they call it, that came as part of, but basically after the Xbox thing. They talked for a whole 45 minutes about just the enormity of that game. And I would love to go through several of their points in detail. So I think it might be better saved for the next episode.
I think that's a good idea. I want to just cover the one thing. Can I just tease one thing, Chris?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to say, listen, we were watching the Xbox Game Showcase and we knew the Starfield thing was coming up. But they showed this trailer. They showed September 6th, 2023. And then the tag for day one Game Pass hit. And I was so pumped. I was so excited, because that means that this is one of those games that I have extremely high hopes for, but my expectations are somewhat restrained. My expectations are also a little high for this game, which may not be a good thing. But again, you get to do it, you get to experience it, you get to play it, you get to try it without any barrier. And it doesn't affect your expectations. It doesn't affect your, like, hype for the game, but it does allow, like, if it's a bad game, you don't feel bad spending $50, $60, $70, $100 on it. Right. And I just, that takes the pressure off. I almost feel like, right. Like does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally get it. But I will actually counter what you just said about taking the pressure off. It does do that. But I also think that having the games on Game Pass, while it is the best deal in gaming and it is amazing, I don't know. It almost cheapens a lot of really good games if you don't have to kind of make the decision to, like, plunk down your $20 or $40 or $60 or $100 on a game. Like, you don't feel as invested, I would say, in the games themselves when they're available on a subscription versus when you've bought them with your hard-earned money, and then you feel kind of a little bit obligated to play them for more than, like, an hour or two, because then, like, the next thing is coming, right? And you kind of forget about it and whatever. I very much appreciate that this game is coming to Game Pass, because I don't know if or when I would buy it otherwise, and I don't know if or when I will even play it, because, as we'll talk about next time, it could be the only game you play for the rest of your life by the looks of it. But I don't know if being on Game Pass is always the best choice.
I mean, I will say you're probably right on always, but I will counter your counter by saying the fact that you're not spending a lot of money on it and you don't feel obligated to play it means that the only reason you're going to play it is if it's truly a good game, right? The only reason you're going to continue returning to it is because it's truly a good, fun experience. And, if you, I could see a little bit of a downside where if there is a lull in the game, right, you won't power through it. But I would argue that they should have worked on that. They should have done something to make sure that the drop off at a certain point is fixed or not isn't happening. I don't like that pressure, right? I don't like that pressure of a game where, I mean, we talk about it with subscription games a lot, where we say, oh, you're paying $15 a month. Like, you really like have to try hard to not say, oh, am I getting my money's worth because I'm paying a monthly fee for this game? You have to, like me, I have to actively try to fight that feeling away. And whereas if like it's in a subscription that I'm literally already paying for, right? I'm using Xbox Game Pass for lots of other things. It's just another thing in that subscription. I feel much less pressure to actually like it and enjoy it. I feel much less pressure to force myself to continue to go back to it. And I think I will play it because I enjoy it, not because it's what I'm supposed to do. I really, really hope it's good enough to keep my interest like that. And what I compare it to in my head is God of War, right? God of War Ragnarok. I feel bad that I have not played God of War Ragnarok yet, right? I feel bad. I bought the game. It's a good game. I should play it. I just haven't yet, right? Like, I paid real money for that game. Whereas Starfield, if it's buggy or if it's like, it needs more time in the oven or whatever, I just won't feel bad. I'll play it in January or I'll play it in, March or whatever. And it's not that I dropped $60 to $100 on it. I pay a subscription for it that's paid through, I don't know, probably 2024 or 2025. And I won't feel bad if I have to wait 6 months. And I'm not going to try to power through, a bad or disappointing or incomplete or anything like that. Or if I just don't have time for it, right? The pressure isn't there. And I appreciate that. And it was very, very exciting to me to see that Starfield is day one Game Pass.
And with that, we'll leave you to be able to watch the Starfield trailers and things for yourselves between this episode and next episode, where we promise we will get into more of a deep dive on Starfield.
Speaking of trailers, this is kind of where the Xbox game showcase kind of came to an end, and they went into the Starfield Direct, which, again, like Chris said, we'll talk about next time. The end of the entire Xbox game showcase was a trailer of itself. Epic, just just incredible. I mean, this is where we talked about during the PC gaming showcase, where like the 30 seconds that they showed the Xbox game showcase was amazing. This last 2 minutes or 3 minutes, it was a pretty long trailer at the end, was just kind of recapping all of the games that they talked about during the Xbox game showcase. It was so good. I mean, it just made you so excited for games. It made you so excited for being a gamer and being involved in this industry and just all of those things. And if you watch nothing else from this, I mean, if you don't want to go watch the 2-hour showcase, just go watch the last 3 minutes of it to watch this trailer of all of the games they showed about, and just this hype building moment for Xbox games, for Microsoft, for gaming as a whole, and really just bask in it for a couple minutes, because it really, really like was a lot of fun just to see that all to come together, and the music and the trailer and the experience kind of wrapped up into a perfect bow.
I think when that was playing, you were very excited for it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a good reminder of all the things that had happened. And you said, man, Microsoft really gets it, right? They know how to do a showcase and do this hype and do these things. Whereas Sony is a little bit more subdued, a little bit more disjointed, right? They're just kind of showing a bunch of trailers back to back to back. Like, didn't have a lot of cohesion to it. So I agree with you. I think Microsoft does better at kind of this level of polished hype presentation than Sony tends to do.
Stay tuned for next episode. We'll get into Starfield. I think Chris and I have a lot to say on it. We'll get more in depth, which I'm actually kind of excited to do, because we were going to go pretty fast throughout it, but giving it its own kind of slot, I think, is the right thing to do. I think there's a lot to talk about there and a lot to unpack. If we missed anything from the Xbox game showcase, the PC games showcase or PC gaming showcase, Summer Games Fest, or you want to reference back to the PlayStation showcase, or we're probably not going to talk about the Ubisoft Forward. So if there's anything that came up on that show that should be discussed, please let us know. Start a conversation about it. Let's talk through it. I think I mean, we clearly didn't have enough time for everything. And we cut more than half of the games that were talked about during these showcases. So we'd love to hear from everyone that also watched them or that have any notes or comments or ideas. You can get in contact with us. You can start a conversation by joining our Discord, which you can get to at discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to read any of our show notes or find any of our older episodes, I will try to make sure that we have links to the things we talked about today in our show notes. You can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, or you know someone that might enjoy the next one about Starfield, please, we would love if you could share it with some other people.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.
Chris, you going to drop $3,500 for a Vision Pro?
I mean, no. The answer is no. The answer is definitively no. And I say this mostly because I have to keep saying it, or else the answer might not be no, but it has to be no. And I know that my wife listens to the show, so it definitely has to be no. But man, every single person that I have heard about seeing this thing, which is the Apple AR VR headset thing, every single review or hands-on experience that anyone has had has been glowing.
Yeah. I've heard the same. Absolutely. Listen, I've listened to, we both listened to ATP, which is an Accidental Tech podcast, essentially a podcast just all about Apple stuff, but a little bit of tech, other tech stuff. They think this thing is the bee's knees. And while I agree that it is a significant step forward in AR VR, I don't think the Vision Pro version 1 is going to be the revolution that they or anyone else is talking about. I agree that it's probably perfect. I agree that it's probably great. I just think people are putting too much emphasis on this first version of it.
I agree. I think it has to be a second or third generation product for it to really take off. And the price has to come down a little bit, right? I mean, I think you can say, oh, this is a new fancy computer. Well, okay. So one of the things that everybody that kind of has seen this thing talks about is the spatial memories or whatever, spatial video stuff, right? Where they're taking video with the headset, which is super dorky. And we don't have to talk about that specifically, but imagine if you had a camera that was not a thing you had to put in front of your eyes that could take these 3D memory things, and then you could go back and watch them. And there was some way for you to try that and experience it in an Apple store or something before you buy one of these things. I think that would drive the market significantly for, that and other experiences that have yet to exist yet because people haven't had these things in their hands and be able to program them. I think that this is going to take off faster than we think. Maybe not fast, but I feel like the current, trajectory of VR was maybe in a decade people will have VR for work. But I think this is going to accelerate that pace significantly.
I am still extremely skeptical. I don't think this is going to take off until you can get to a wearable that is not unreasonable for people to wear in public. I think ATP talked a lot about AirPods, right? And they said, oh, AirPods used to have these stigma to them, and then people got over it, right? But they're tiny little pods in your ears, right? The stigma on wearing one got over pretty quickly because people start to understand what they are. They're just headphones, whatever, and they have transparency. So, once people learn that you can see and talk through them, fine. I don't think we're anywhere close to people getting over the stigma of wearing these in the Vision Pro in public. I think we are very far off of that. And I think the two things that will lead to it is one, getting more of them into the market, which won't happen at this price point. And I don't think that we'll get to a Ready Player One scenario, right? Any time within the next decade or two, right? And that would be the first way to get over it, is where everyone is just kind of always wearing them. The second one is to make them less like more like other objects that we already put on our face, like a contact or glasses or something like that. The whole time I'm watching this Vision Pro thing, I'm thinking to myself, this software is exactly what they need to put in contact lenses.
I mean, sure. Yes, that would be amazing. There's, I would say, infinite engineering problems with that in terms of power source and displays and all that stuff. But never say never, I guess. I think that that's where they need to get to, or at least much closer to that, before we get anywhere to mainstream adoption. I don't think we need to get that far for I'm wearing this thing in my house, on an airplane, or in my hotel room, or maybe in my office. I think I'm not talking walking down the street, but I'm thinking in stationary locations where you can kind of plant yourself and be, I could see this being a huge thing and in not very much time.
I think we differ on that. I'm very interested to see where the world lands.
Stay tuned, folks.